I guess you never really know when your life is going to split into a before and an after. For me, it wasn't some big dramatic event. It was the deafening silence that fell the moment my mother's car pulled out of the driveway. If you're listening to this for the first time, you should probably subscribe, because you're not going to want to miss how this ends. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I feel like I'm going to need all the support I can get. The click of the front door locking felt final, sealing me inside the suffocating quiet of the house I should have left years ago. I was just trying to feel useful dusting the tall bookshelf in the living room when I felt a change in the air, that prickle on your skin when you know you're being watched. I turned, and he was there. Marcus, my stepfather. He was just leaning against the doorframe, not saying a word, just looking at me. And it wasn't the way he usually looked at me. This was different. This gaze cut through years of forced family dinners and polite smiles. It saw right through my worn-out green top, past the dutiful stepdaughter, and landed on the woman I tried so hard to hide. A slow, possessive heat crawled up my neck. My heart started pounding a frantic, dangerous rhythm against my ribs. In his dark, melancholy eyes, I saw a reflection of the same forbidden curiosity I'd been burying for years, and I knew, with a terrifying certainty, that the silence was about to be broken. The days that followed were a special kind of torture, a masterclass in domestic suspense. Every meal became a minefield. My mother, completely oblivious, would fill the silence with chatter about her garden club or the latest neighborhood gossip, while Marcus and I conducted an entire war of glances over the mashed potatoes. His eyes would find mine, and the look wasn't just desire, it was a challenge. It was a dark, knowing gaze that said, "I know what you're thinking because I'm thinking it too." I'd feel a hot flush creep up my neck, my skin tingling as if he were actually touching me. I'd have to look down at my plate, my heart hammering so loud I was sure my mother could hear it. The worst and best moment was at dinner 2 nights later. My mom asked me to pass the salt, and as I reached for it, so did he. Our fingers brushed, just a fleeting feather-light contact. But it was like being struck by lightning. A searing jolt shot up my arm, and I gasped, snatching my hand back as if I'd been burned. My mother just looked at me, a little confused. "You okay, honey? You look flushed." I mumbled something about the room being warm, but I could feel Marcus's smile without even looking at him. He knew. He knew exactly what that tiny accidental touch had done to me. For the rest of the night, I felt his eyes on me, a heavy, possessive weight. While I was clearing the table, I could feel him watching my every move from the living room. It was a dangerous, intoxicating game, and living under the same roof with him, with this silent, screaming secret between us, was turning our home into a pressure cooker. I was terrified of what would happen when it finally exploded. That explosion came sooner than I thought. I couldn't sleep that night, my mind replaying that touch, that look, over and over. I went downstairs for a glass of water, needing the cold shock to clear my head. The house was dead silent, every creak of the floorboard sounding like a gunshot. I was standing at the kitchen sink, letting the cold water run over my wrist, when I felt it again. That prickle of being watched. I didn't even have to turn around. "You're awake?" he said. His voice was a low rumble in the darkness, closer than I expected. I turned slowly, my heart in my throat. He was leaning against the counter, just a few feet away, bathed in the pale moonlight filtering through the window. He pushed off the counter and took a step closer, then another, until he was standing right in front of me, caging me in against the sink. The air between us grew thick, electric. "I'm always awake lately," I managed to whisper, my voice trembling. He smiled, a slow, predatory curve of his lips. "This house," he said, his voice dropping even lower, "has become a very distracting place." He wasn't talking about the house. He was talking about me, about us. He raised his hand, and for a terrifying second, I thought he was going to touch my face, but instead he braced it on the counter beside my head. His body was so close I could feel the heat radiating off him. "I don't think I can keep pretending, Alara," he murmured, his eyes dropping to my mouth. "I don't think I want to." My mind was screaming at me to run, to push him away, to scream for my mother, but I was frozen, trapped by the raw, undeniable truth in his eyes. He felt it too. This wasn't just in my head. This was real, and it was happening. And the most terrifying part, I didn't want it to stop. He didn't move, and neither did I. The silence stretched thin and fragile, threatening to snap. It was a dare, a question hanging in the charged space between us. My silence was the answer he was looking for. His eyes, dark and intense in the moonlight, held mine, and I saw everything I was feeling reflected there, the guilt, the fear, but overwhelmingly, this raw, undeniable wanting. He finally broke the spell, his voice a rough whisper that was for me and me alone. "Tell me to stop, Ilara." It wasn't a command, it was a plea. He was giving me an out, a chance to slam the door on this thing that had been building between us for years. All I had to do was say the word, just one word. But it was lodged in my throat, choked by the frantic hammering of my heart. I couldn't. I parted my lips to speak, to say something, anything, but only a shaky breath escaped. That was all the permission he needed. He closed the remaining distance, and the world tilted on its axis. The heat from his body enveloped me, a solid masculine presence that made the cold porcelain of the sink feel a world away. One hand left the counter and came to rest on my hip, his thumb pressing gently, possessively, into the soft fabric of my pajamas. The touch was electric, a brand against my skin, and a helpless shudder ran through me. "We can't," I finally managed to whisper, the words sounding weak and hollow even to my own ears. They were a lie, and we both knew it. "My mother, she's just upstairs." His name was an accusation, a desperate reminder of the line we were about to cross. He didn't answer. Instead, his other hand came up, his fingers tangling in the loose hair at the nape of my neck. He tilted my head back, forcing me to meet his gaze. "She's sleeping," he murmured, his thumb stroking the sensitive skin just below my ear, sending shivers down my spine. "Right now, in this house, it's just us." Just as he said it, a low rumble of thunder echoed outside, followed by the sudden drumming of rain against the window panes. The storm had broken, trapping us in our own little world, washing away everything but this moment. His eyes dropped from mine, tracing the line of my jaw before settling on my mouth. I watched them, mesmerized, as he leaned in, his own lips parting slightly. I could feel his breath, warm and minty, ghosting across my skin. Every rational thought in my head evaporated, replaced by a singular, overwhelming need. My own hands, which had been pressed flat against the sink behind me, came up and rested on his chest, not to push him away, but to steady myself, to feel the solid, rhythmic beat of his heart beneath my palms. My resistance crumbled into dust. My eyes fluttered closed as he lowered his head that final, impossible inch, and all I could think was that I had been waiting for this my entire life. His lips crashed against mine, not with tenderness but with a desperate, consuming hunger that stole the air from my lungs. It wasn't a kiss, it was a collision, the violent impact of years of stolen glances, unspoken thoughts, and simmering resentment finally erupting. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one he unleashed inside me. My whimper of protest was swallowed by his mouth, my resistance melting into a feverish need that met his own. His hands were everywhere, one tangled in my hair, tilting my head to a punishing angle, while the other slid from my hip down my back, pressing me so hard against him I could feel the buckle of his belt digging into my stomach. It was rough and urgent, a frantic claiming. I felt myself arching into him, my hands clawing at his shirt, pulling him closer, needing more. The scent of him, soap and something uniquely masculine, something that was just Marcus, filled my senses, intoxicating me, erasing every last shred of reason. We were a tangle of limbs and desperate breaths in the moonlit kitchen, the drumming rain our only witness. He broke the kiss only to press his mouth to my throat, his teeth grazing the sensitive skin, and a raw, guttural sound escaped me. It was the sound of complete and utter surrender. Every touch was a transgression, every kiss a sin we were committing together, and it was the most liberating, terrifying thing I had ever felt. This wasn't just breaking a rule, it was shattering the very foundation of my world, and in that moment all I wanted was to watch it burn. He lifted me effortlessly onto the counter, the cold stone a shock against my skin, and wedged himself between my legs. Looking up at him, his face shadowed, his eyes blazing with a dark, possessive fire, I knew there was no going back. This was the point of no return. The first sound that pierced through the haze was a floorboard creaking upstairs. It was a small, innocuous noise, but it hit us like a physical blow. We froze, pulling apart instantly, our chests heaving. The spell was broken. Suddenly, I was painfully aware of everything. My disheveled clothes, his ragged breathing, the cold of the kitchen counter beneath me. The heat of passion was replaced by a chilling, creeping dread. I slid off the counter, my legs shaky, and couldn't meet his eyes. The silence that fell between us was 1,000 times heavier than before. It was thick with guilt and the sticky residue of our shared crime. He just stood there, running a hand through his hair, his own gaze fixed on the floor. Without a word, I turned and fled back to my room, the echo of my own frantic heartbeat chasing me up the stairs. The next morning was torture. The air in the house had changed. It was no longer just tense, it was contaminated. My mother was in the kitchen, humming. Completely oblivious as she made coffee, her cheerfulness was a knife twisting in my gut. When Marcus walked in, my breath caught in my throat. He looked tired, but his eyes found mine for a split second, and in that glance, a whole conversation passed between us. There was the memory of the night before, the shared guilt, and something else, a dark, thrilling thread of complicity that now bound us together. "Morning, sleepyhead," my mother said to me, smiling. "Can you pass the sugar?" I reached for it, and so did Marcus. Our fingers brushed again, but this time it wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate, lingering contact that sent a fresh jolt of forbidden electricity through me. I snatched my hand back, my cheeks burning. My mother didn't notice. She just kept chattering about the storm, about her plans for the day, while Marcus and I sat in a suffocating silence, prisoners of a secret that was both delicious and utterly devastating. We had crossed the line, and now we had to live in the wreckage. Every meal, every conversation, every moment under this roof was now part of the lie. We tried to be normal. For 2 days, I swore to myself that the kiss in the kitchen was a moment of madness, a lightning strike that would never happen again. I avoided his eyes at breakfast. I spent hours locked in my room, pretending to be deep in a book. I created a bubble of fragile denial around myself, hoping the tension would just dissipate. But it was useless. The house wasn't a sanctuary. It was a cage, and the air inside was thick with our shared secret. The pull between us was a living thing, an invisible current that made it impossible to stay on opposite sides of a room. On the third day, I was in the narrow hallway upstairs, heading for the bathroom, when he came out of his bedroom. We were suddenly face to face, the space too small to ignore each other. My heart hammered against my ribs. "We need to stop," I whispered, the words feeling like a lie the moment they left my mouth. He just looked at me, his dark eyes searching my face. "Do we?" he asked, his voice a low rumble that vibrated right through me. He didn't move, just stood there blocking my path. He was waiting, daring me to mean it. From downstairs, we could hear my mother on the phone with her sister, her voice a cheerful, oblivious drone. The sound of her normal, innocent life happening just a floor below us should have been a bucket of ice water. Instead, it was gasoline on a fire. The sheer risk of it, the audacity, was intoxicating. He saw the surrender in my eyes before I even knew it was there. He reached out not to grab me, but just to gently cup my elbow. The touch was electric, a current that shot straight to my core. "Just for a minute," he murmured, his thumb stroking the inside of my arm. He guided me back into his room, and quietly clicked the door shut. The world shrank to the four walls, the scent of his cologne and the sound of our breathing. He backed me against the door, and the kiss this time wasn't frantic or desperate. It was slow, knowing, and utterly possessive. It was the kiss of someone who knew they had already won. And as I melted against him, all I could think was that we weren't stopping this. We were just getting better at hiding it. The next few weeks were a blur of stolen moments and calculated risks. We became masters of the double life, communicating in a language no one else understood. A lingering glance over the rim of a coffee cup was a question. The slight brush of his hand against my lower back as I cleared the table was the answer. We found our opportunities in the mundane. 5 minutes in the garage while my mother was distracted by a phone call, a breathless encounter in the study when she went upstairs for a nap. Each time we got away with it, we grew bolder, more reckless. The fear was a constant companion, but it was laced with a thrilling, addictive poison. It made me feel alive in a way I never had before. The near miss happened on a Sunday morning. My mother had gone out for a walk. Marcus and I were in the living room, on the sofa, tangled together in a way that left no room for interpretation. We were lost in it, lost in each other, when we heard the unmistakable sound of her keys jangling at the front door. She was back, at least 20 minutes early. A bolt of pure, cold panic shot through me. We scrambled apart, a clumsy mess of limbs in frantic motion. I straightened my shirt, my hands shaking, while he quickly smoothed the throw pillows. I dove for a magazine on the coffee table, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. The door opened. "Forgot my water bottle," she called out cheerfully. "It's beautiful out there." She bustled into the room, and my blood ran cold. On the floor, right next to the sofa, was one of my earrings, a small silver hoop that had come off in our haste. It lay there, gleaming on the dark wood, a tiny glittering indictment of everything we had just done. My mother didn't see it. She grabbed her bottle from the side table, took a sip, and smiled at us. "You two are quiet this morning," she said, completely oblivious to the silent scream trapped in my throat. My eyes were locked on the earring. If she looked down, it was all over. Marcus, impossibly calm, stretched his legs out and accidentally kicked a pillow off the sofa. It landed perfectly, covering the earring completely. "Just enjoying the peace," he said, his voice smooth as silk. The moment she left, I felt like I was going to be sick. The adrenaline, the terror, the sheer, dumb luck of it all crashed over me. I looked at Marcus, who was leaning back with a faint, triumphant smile, and I felt a terrifying shift inside me. This wasn't just a fling. This was a conspiracy. I was becoming someone I didn't recognize, a person who could sit on a sofa, heart still racing, and lie with her eyes. I was trapped in this dangerous, exhilarating maze with him, and the scariest part was that I wasn't looking for a way out. I was just wondering how much deeper we could go. The breaking point didn't come with a bang, but with the soft, rustling sound of old paper. I came downstairs to find my mother at the dining room table, a dusty photo album open in front of her. She wasn't her usual bubbly self. She was quiet, a small nostalgic smile on her face. The air was still, heavy with the scent of rain from the storm the night before. She looked up as I entered, her eyes a little misty. "Look at this one," she said, her voice thick with emotion. She turned the album toward me. It was a picture of the two of us, taken maybe 15 years ago, on a beach vacation before Marcus was even in the picture. I had a gap-toothed grin, and she was looking at me with an expression of such pure, uncomplicated love that it felt like a physical blow. "We were so happy then," she sighed. Not in an accusatory way, just a simple statement of fact. She traced my face in the photo with her finger. "You're my whole world, Alara. You know that, right?" I could only nod, a lump forming in my throat. Then she looked at me, her gaze so open and trusting it made my stomach churn with acid. "I feel so lucky," she continued, her voice wavering slightly, "to have you, and to have Marcus. He's such a good man. You both take such good care of me. I don't know what I'd do if I ever lost this family." Each word was a nail in my coffin. She saw a happy family. I saw a web of lies with me and him at the center, and her, dangling, completely unaware. I felt like a monster, a parasite feeding on the goodness of the one person I should be protecting. The weight of it all, the stolen kisses, the near misses, the constant humming dread crashed down on me at once. This wasn't a thrilling game anymore, it was a slow, deliberate act of destruction. I glanced toward the living room, where I could see Marcus reading the paper, completely detached. He was the architect of this, yet he could sit there as if it were any other morning. The sight of his calm composure filled me with a sudden, boiling rage. This couldn't go on. It was a ticking bomb, and my mother's innocent words had just lit the fuse. I finally understood that when it exploded, she wouldn't be the only casualty. I would be vaporized too, and the woman in that photograph, the one her mother loved so fiercely, would be gone forever. That night, I waited until I heard my mother's light snoring from their bedroom before I went to find him. He was in his study, the door slightly ajar, a single lamp casting long shadows across the room. He was staring out the window into the darkness, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He didn't seem surprised to see me. "We have to stop," I said, my voice barely a whisper, but it cut through the silence like a knife. He turned slowly, his expression unreadable. "We can't just stop, Alara." He took a sip of his drink, his eyes never leaving mine. "It's too late for that." A wave of frustration and desperation washed over me. "Did you hear her today? Did you see her face? She trusts us, Marcus. She loves us, and we are betraying her in her own home, every single day." I took a step closer, my voice rising. "What are we even doing? Where does this go? Do you think we can just keep sneaking around forever until she finds my earring on the floor for real this time?" He set his glass down with a heavy thud. "And what's the alternative?" He shot back, his voice low and dangerous. "We go back to how it was? The polite smiles, the suffocating silence? You want to go back to pretending you don't feel that current between us every time we're in the same room? Because I can't, and I don't think you can either." He was right, and that was the most terrifying part. He closed the distance between us, his hands coming up to grip my arms. The heat of his touch was still electric, still something my body craved against my will. "This is real, what we have," he murmured, his gaze intense. Her marriage to me. That's the real lie. But his words didn't comfort me. They horrified me. I saw the future laid out before us, a wasteland of broken trust and shattered lives. I pulled away from him, my heart hammering. This isn't real, I choked out. This is a fantasy, and it's going to destroy everything. He just watched me, a dark, almost sad look in his eyes. Maybe. He said softly, his voice devoid of all hope. But it's a fantasy we're both trapped in, and it doesn't end with us just walking away. This ends when she finds out. It's not a matter of if, Alara, it's a matter of when. And in the crushing silence of the study, I knew he was right. We weren't steering this anymore. We were just passengers in a car speeding toward a wall, and all we could do was wait for the impact. His words hung in the air long after I'd crept back to my room, a death sentence for the life I used to know. It's not a matter of if, but when. For the last week, I've been living in that when. It's not a time or a place. It's a state of being. It's the constant low-grade hum of terror beneath every fake smile I give my mother. It's the jolt of adrenaline every time her phone rings, thinking it's someone who knows, someone who saw. I feel like I'm holding my breath, waiting for an impact that I know is coming but can't see. My mind is a war zone. One part of me, the dark and selfish part, replays every stolen touch, every secret kiss. It fantasizes about a world where Marcus and I can be together without the lies, without the wreckage. It's a sick, beautiful dream that I can't seem to wake up from. But then I'll see my mother watering her plants, humming a song she loves, and the guilt crashes over me like a tidal wave. It's so heavy, so suffocating. I feel like I'm physically drowning in it. She looks at me with so much love, and I have to look away because I'm not the daughter she thinks she raised. I'm a snake she welcomed into her home. And that's why I'm telling you this, why I'm putting this out into the void. I feel like I'm going insane, trapped in this silent house with my two realities. I can't talk to anyone, but I can't keep it inside anymore. I'm standing at a crossroads, and every path leads to ruin. Do I confess and shatter my mother's world completely? Do I run, abandon everything, and become the villain of her story forever? Or do I try to cut it off, knowing it will probably just make the inevitable explosion even bigger? I need to know what to do. I'm begging you, tell me. Should I just keep going? Do you even want to hear what I chose?